Hello and welcome to our Happy Place Snowed Under Survival Guide. Hopefully, if you are feeling a bit snowed under this year, this will help you out. I am joined by my wonderful friend Kirsty Gallagher, and we're going to go through some techniques and also a meditation to help you feel a little bit calmer and more grounded at this time of year. Hello, Kirsty.
Hey, how are you?
I am good. Okay, let's cut to the chase. Are you snowed under? How are you feeling this December?
Snowed under. I think this year everything started a lot sooner. So it's only like, is it first, 2nd of December? But it feels like we're almost at Christmas already. And
Yeah.
I feel like as well, because of last year, there's almost a lot more pressure this year to make it special. And then obviously there's a new announcements. And I think all of us I just feel like I feel like a snowflake, like I'm just drifting, like I've not
Yeah.
got a firm footing, like I'm in a flurry almost, and I don't really. So yeah.
And we're all sort of extra exhausted because we
Oh,
mustn't underestimate the pressure that we've all been under for the past 2 years, essentially, and the fear that's been circulating and some very heavy energies and very heavy emotions. And I think it's taken its toll on all of us, whether we've realized it or not. And I
absolutely.
certainly already this December, for the first few days of it, have just felt like taking a big nap. I've just been very lethargic, and I feel like it's really hit me as well as it being a very busy time because of a lot of people have a very busy time at work before Christmas. I'm certainly experiencing that alongside the kids having all sorts of Christmas plays and non-uniform days and stuff to remember and Christmas shopping, etc. And as well as that overwhelm, of course, there'll be many people out there that feel snowed under by the idea of Christmas because it relates to very heavy or difficult times previously. And of course, Christmas is a very full bodied experience, whether you like it or not. Christmas has a smell, it has colours, it has twinkly lights, it has a feel about it. And if you don't like that, it's very hard to escape it. So I really hope that our snowed under survival guide today helps everybody out there who's just feeling a bit off center at the moment, and that we can all work together to try and get a little bit calmer. I certainly need that, a little bit more grounded, and hopefully feeling a little more positive if you find this time of year particularly tricky. So I'm going to hand over to your expert ways and see what you think the sort of good starting point for us might be today.
I feel like a good starting point would be just first of all to recognize where we are, because I think a lot of the time, and especially as you just so beautifully put, you can't escape Christmas, it's everywhere. And there is such, as we mentioned earlier, a big expectation around it all, and a need to feel like we should feel a certain way, things should be a certain way. And I feel almost like we try and push past it, and we go and we go and we go until there's a point where we just stop. And oftentimes when we're trying to suppress, avoid what we're feeling, it gets worse. It becomes almost like that elephant in the room that gets worse and worse and worse. And so I feel like it's a good start point for us, maybe all now, to just have that little check-in of where are we right now, how are we feeling, and even to invite ourselves into this call, into this space that you and I have now created for people to come to just allow yourself to be present here. And so it might just be a nice idea for wherever we are to close our eyes. And if it feels good to maybe place a hand over heart or belly, or hands on knees, anything that just makes you feel good, just perhaps placing a hand and just noticing how you feel in this moment. And not even trying to avoid that. It might be that you're feeling a little anxiety, and then just notice where that is. It might be like, oh, there's a bit of anxiety, it's in my belly. And just be there, be okay with that. Just breathe through it. It may be that you've got a little bit of something going on around your heart. Maybe that you feel your mind is scattered in a million different directions, but very often it really helps us to name the experience that we're having, because then it helps us to consciously be part of it and therefore be able to manage it a bit better. So just perhaps, if anyone out there is feeling anything right now, just naming that, whatever it is, just naming it to yourself of what you're feeling right now. And noticing too how the things that you're feeling will start to shift a little as we allow ourselves just to be with them. And then inviting all of you into this moment. So knowing that all of you is welcome here in this space with us, no matter how you're showing up today, all of you is welcome here. Everything you're experiencing today is welcome here. So allowing yourself with a few deep breaths to just become fully present in this moment, and perhaps dedicating now this next little bit of time to you, for you, as a space that you now get to come to take care of yourself. And just feel even maybe how that feels with a deep breath, that you're here now to give yourself time to take care of yourself. And just with another really slow, deep breath, gently blinking open your eyes and allowing yourself to come fully into this space. And yeah, we welcome you all here and hope this next little bit of time with us helps.
It's really nice to know that you can bring your whole self somewhere, because a lot of the time you think, oh, I'm not bringing that bit. That bit was so rude earlier, or so annoying, or irritable, or impatient. And, you know, we're sort of denying ourselves of feelings because we think that they're, you know, full of shame or they're not correct. And I, in that moment when you said that, went, oh, I'm going to have to bring in that like serious impatience that I felt earlier. And when I was a bit ratty, when I was discussing work things. And, you know, you've got to kind of bring all that to the table. And I personally certainly noticed today, and I think it's very different when you do this, if it's a daily practice. Today, I really feel like I'm running on pure adrenaline. And it can be a bit dangerous for me because I sometimes quite like that. And I get a little bit too involved in that feeling of, oh, what can I do next? Ticking things off a list. And then, of course, you inevitably hit a wall later down the line. So it's a beautiful way for us to start, just to notice that. And of course, I guess that's something you can do every day, isn't it?
I was just going to say that every day, if everyone listening even committed to that through the month of December, and it's incredible to notice, as you just said, even welcoming in those different parts of us, it helps us accept ourselves. It helps us not to be in denial about those parts and push them away and try to hide them and feel that they are these shameful parts. And you'll notice doing this every day how it really brings home that kind of saying about like yesterday's yesterday, and bringing ourselves into that moment. We notice how every day is different. It's a new experience. It's a new opportunity to show up, and to show up fully however we are, rather than trying to deny anything about our experiences. And so even to commit to doing that, for I understand so many people are busy. I understand parents, working, families, commitments. But if you can't carve out like 5 minutes a day for yourself, for your self-care, to put yourself first, that's a problem. So even just if it was like a 5-minute thing of like 5 minutes out of 24 hours, I'm just going to breathe and see how I feel, it would change your whole experience of this month.
And it's really good to notice how you feel and then not attach any particular sort of self-berating,
Yes.
you know, argument towards yourself, whatever it might be, because often we'll go, okay, I notice right now that I'm feeling really agitated, or it might be I'm feeling resentful, I'm feeling angry, it might be I'm feeling scared. And rather than then piling on top of that, well, that's bad, that makes me a weak person, a terrible person, to actually allow yourself to feel it. I think so often we try and suppress the present emotion to get to a better one or a more acceptable one, and that's almost impossible.
Well, it's virtually impossible. And I mean, you and I have spoken about this many times, but it's often sometimes in those deeper, sort of darker, let's say, emotions that we do learn the most about ourselves. And it's so important to bring those parts of us in, because especially at a time of year when everyone's wandering around with big smiles plastered on their faces, it's Christmas and everything should be so wonderful, those parts that we try to suppress, they're just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger beneath the surface. And they're the emotions then that cause us to feel that very deep, low level anxiety all the time, when we're kind of feeling like something's waiting around the corner for us. If we can invite that in, we've immediately taken back a lot of the control as well over how things are and how our present moment experience gets to be, because
Yeah,
it is what it is.
there's so much expectation that not only should you be feeling a certain way, but that your version of Christmas should perhaps be perfect, or how you do Christmas should be perfect. That might not be the case for everyone, people out there who are having a incredibly tough time, that won't of course be on their radar. But if you are hosting your Christmas lunch with your family or friends, whatever it might be, there is an expectation that you want things to have that Christmas magic and for the food to be perfect, the gifts to be perfect, etc. And we're really setting ourselves up for a fall, and we're sort of missing the point to just be with other people and enjoy that moment rather than looking for this sort of Instagram perfect Christmas experience.
Yes. And I was just going to say, as you said it, we're missing then the present moment because we're so worried about the dinner that's not even coming for 3 or 4 hours, and then this. I've done it before in years gone by when I've got to the end of a Christmas day and realised I wasn't actually there during most of the Christmas day. So the more we can pause to be present with whatever is and not try to run away from that moment, the more then we get to really be in those moments and to come really to the essence of what this time of year should be, which is it's about love and about peace and community and family, if you have family, and a moment to pause versus any of the big lights and fancy presents. And
the crazy sort of routine that you've just mentioned. I hope that my mum, who watches this, because she'll often put the peas on at about 11. I'm like, what? Don't put the peas on now, they take 2 minutes, what are you doing? It's quite a highly stressful scenario. I know that obviously within the work that you do, as a mentor and a thought leader and a meditation teacher and all the beautiful stuff that you do around the moon's activity as well, journaling is such a huge part of working through life in general. How might we use journaling at this time of year?
I think there's 2 different ways I'd probably give. The first one would be to journal daily. So if you were going to do a little routine, maybe that little check-in we did, and then to journal on that. And again, what we often find then is as we journal, we start to get to deeper truth, because there's always something deeper beneath the experience. There's always a kind of a trigger underneath it all. And the more we journal, the more we get to know ourselves, the more we can get to what's really beneath. So sometimes just journaling around how we're feeling enables us then to join the dots to the reason that we're feeling the way we are today is because of that one thing someone said 3 days ago that we've been ruminating over since. It reminded us of a time when someone else did that to us 10 years ago. And our mind then is just picking up the threads and looking for more evidence of the situation, or that we're a bad person, or whatever the narrative is around that. So journaling helps us to really get to the bottom of those kind of things and almost like connect dots for why things are happening. And I realized it the other day through journaling. I'm going through a really beautiful time at the moment, getting to do things like this with you and many different things. And I'd found that I'd started to go into little sabotaging techniques whereby I'm not very good if I don't get sleep. And I found that all of a sudden I was like staying up until 11:30, and my morning routine had slipped. And it was because there was this part of me that was aware that big things were happening, that was afraid. And so it was like, I know what we'll do. Let's make her tired and grouchy and irritable. And I hadn't realized it till I journaled on why I was feeling the way I was feeling. And it was a moment where I was like, oh my God, I'm doing that to myself. And it was just such a revelation to me. And that's with all the work I do, that I still have like these moments, and that had just come through the writing about how I was feeling and what was going on for me. And again, there was that berating side of me that was like, but there's so much good stuff going on. Why do you feel like this? Until I realized that the part of me that felt like this was trying to protect me from the big things that were coming. And it's incredible. So just a little daily journal. And as well, it helps to be honest about how we're feeling. So if you are dreading Christmas, being honest to yourself, even on paper, helps it to not get locked inside you and become bigger. As soon as we can sometimes admit a truth, it's like, oh,
yeah,
okay, that feels a bit better. So even if it is a truth about, family dynamics at Christmas, as we all know, it can even help us to prepare for those family dynamics. It can help us to feel our own way into what our part to play is in all this. It can just help us to really know ourselves in these moments. And then another way that journaling or just stroke writing can help if you don't feel like journaling is to just make little to-do lists, and not as a way to almost perhaps run on that adrenaline, but sometimes when we are snowed under, when our mind is so full, it's the little bits that break the camel's back. So for me today, I was a bit like, I've got to post these things. And I was forgetting what I needed to post. And then I had this to do and that to do. And while it was all still in my head, it kept getting bigger, snowballed. Because then I'd remember another thing I'd forgotten and another and another. Whereas if we can just make a list, even at the start of a day or the night before, of what we need to do, we get to look at that then and say, like, does this need dealing with right now? Because very often, once we start to unpick a problem, we create more problems that go so far into the future and even into the past.
Yeah.
We can then get to look at that and go, what's my priority today? We get to be kinder to ourselves. I've got this amount of time today. What can I do in this time? And what can I move to tomorrow? Or what doesn't need my focus or attention? Or what doesn't need me to look at it at all?
Yeah.
So sometimes getting it out, I call it a brain dump as well. It's known as a brain dump, where we just dump everything in our minds onto paper, and then we can go like, that feels better already.
Yeah, before bed, I kind of have to, because my brain's going at
Yeah.
a million miles an hour. So before bed, if I go, right, these are the things that I know I'm considering need to happen, at least if they're on paper, I can almost shut that bit of my brain off to try and relax. And just to go back on the more sort of classical journaling piece a moment ago, what might, if someone's never journaled before, what might be some good journal prompts for this time of year?
I would just open again. It's a very difficult thing for many people because we've been so used to suppressing feelings, shutting down feelings, deciding what we will and won't feel, that sometimes one of my main ones would be to say, like, how am I feeling today? But for many people, that's a big thing. So like, well, I don't know, because we're so used to being up in here. We can tell you how we think today, but we can't necessarily tell you maybe how we feel today. But how do I feel today might be a good one. And that might need to start with a hand over the heart. And I know that if ever I miss doing this for a few days, and at first what comes up is everything that's been underneath. So I might feel a little bit of rage at that thing that happened yesterday, a little bit of frustration about that thing I didn't do, a little bit of judgment about this thing. And it sometimes takes a moment or so then to get down to the layers. And then 9 times out of 10, my heart will always say to me, like, where have you been? Where have you been the last few days? So that might just even have to start with, as we did earlier, hand over heart. Well, how am I feeling? Okay, I feel a little something in my belly, but getting to the bottom of how we feel and being able to name emotions is so powerful. Because again, we use these more blanket or umbrella things of like, I feel depressed. I mean, what does that actually mean? You know, do you feel anxious or sad or afraid? Let's get to know ourselves a little bit deeper. So it might just be, how am I feeling today? Just asking yourself that question about, how do I feel today? It might be more along the lines of, what would I like to achieve today? What would I like to get done today? How would I like my day to day to be? So that also gives us a way to navigate through our day. Setting an intention at the start of your day is so powerful. And that might, especially at this time of year, just be an intention to have more presence through today. And then we can stop and pause through the day to go, I've not been present for the last 4 hours. Let me bring myself back in. It might be to go through the days with a bit more joy and not get as caught up in everything going on around us, and experience, you know, with having children, like seeing children at Christmas, the joy.
Yeah, it's great. And that's the thing, you know, you do have to get that balance between just ticking things off a list so you get to the end of it and hopefully feel a bit better. But then you look back on your day, or it could be a whole week, or even it could be the whole month of December, and you go, did I actually like any of that? Did I enjoy it? And that kind of makes the list completely obsolete. You know, there's no point to it unless you are actually, and I'm saying this for myself more than anyone, because I so often race through, you know, I used to, I think, perhaps when I was you know, moving from my teens into my 20s, I really loved the notion of like, I'm an adult, I buy my own Christmas presents now, I'm going to put some Frank Sinatra on and wrap the gifts. And it was all rather romantic and a bit Love Actually. Whereas now it's like, oh, I hate sellotape, this is a nightmare, and I'm all stressed about it. And I need to get a bit more back into making you know, and if I forget someone's present or whatever it might be, it isn't really the end of the world. And I think we have to always get back to basics when we're looking at the sort of less heavy end of it all and looking at just the general stress of Christmas. Does it really matter if we forgot to get, you know, one of the teachers a gift? Or does it really matter if the Christmas dinner wasn't that brilliant? You know, do these things really, really matter? Whereas, you know, being present and actually noticing and enjoying the things around you, that really does matter. And again, I'm saying this for myself because so many Decembers I've just raced through it to get to the end to feel a sense of relief. and it's been a waste. It's been a waste of I've probably missed loads of precious moments along the way. I just didn't notice them.
Exactly that. I talk about the word enchantment a lot, about being enchanted by what's going on around us at the moment. Enchanted. I went to have a walk around the Christmas lights the other day and tried to really do it through the eyes of like being enchanted by it all. And don't get me wrong, was it busy? Was it a bit stressful? Could I have got caught up in that thing of there being hundreds of people around me? Absolutely. But if we can just try in those moments as much as we can to bring ourselves back to the enchantment of this time of year, versus, as you say, the big list of everyone you've got to buy for and the things you've got to do. And I feel while we're on that point, it's probably really worth talking as well about boundaries as well around this time of year, because it's so easy to say yes to everything. And that takes away from the time we do actually want to spend. And so I think it's so important around this time of year. And even for gifts, I made little things with friends many years ago that rather than buying each other things, we'd spend time together. We'd go on a beautiful lunch together. We'd put our phones away. We'd spend that time versus money, because that's so important, spend that time with people. So I feel like it, again, as well, we're on the thing of like making lists and things, to decide on those people that you actually want to spend that quality time with and give that to them, and just say no a little bit more to the other thousand things that are going to try and pull and vie for your attention in every different direction. Of going for real quality over quantity around this time of year, I think is so important.
Boundaries are something that I've really had to learn the hard way, because over the years, not just in relation to Christmas, but I'd been quite poor with them. I hadn't really set boundaries. I was so worried that other people would think badly of me, would think that I wasn't generous with my time or energy or whatever it might be. And as I said, I learned that the really hard way, with going through some, painful dynamics, etc. And now I've got to the point where I'm by no means perfect, but I'm much better. But at Christmas, I'm pretty strict with my boundaries, because we're at the end of the year and we're all exhausted. It's cold and freezing. I feel like a dry lizard at the moment. My skin is like crispy crepe paper. It feels gross. I'm exhausted. It's dark at 4 o'clock. I want to be in bed by 9 at the latest. So my very boundaried situation is I won't go to Christmas parties. I don't particularly like them. And this brings me on to something else I wanted to talk about today, which is Christmas for introverts. I'm very much a communicator and I love talking to people. I love learning about people, but I'm an introvert. I love being on my own. I need to recuperate away from others, to be on my own, to recalibrate and rejuvenate my energy. And if I don't do that, I feel wired and edgy and anxious and irritable. It's not good. So this year I'm not going to any of the Christmas parties I've been invited to. I've been very honest. I haven't made up a lame excuse and said, oh, I've got to go to my auntie's something or other. I'm just saying, life's quite full on at the moment. Work's very busy and I want to do some fun stuff with the kids. So I just don't have the energy for it, but have a great time, which has been met reasonably, because people go, oh, you're being honest. Okay, great. And it's parties I don't like Christmas parties. I just sort of feel like, God, there's so many other things that I would rather be doing, which sounds rather harsh, but I just know that at the moment I need to be at home resting and slightly hibernating at this time of year. And I used to feel a bit of shame around it, like, am I not living my life to the max? Have I retreated from life? But I'm at the age now where I feel quite confident in the fact that I'm better off resting at home.
But do you know what's you have just probably given thousands and thousands and thousands of people permission. Even my whole body, when you said that, went, oh, thank goodness. Like,
no one wants to go. Do you know what my friend said to me the other day? My friend Lucy said, the best type of friends are ones that cancel. And I was like, that's so brilliant. Because sometimes you think, at this time of year, I can't be bothered to leave the house. It's freezing, it's dark. And then your mate goes, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm not going to make it. And you're like,
I love you.
You know, we all feel it, not all the time. Obviously, there's time for gorgeous celebration and union, etc. But at this time of year, we need to slightly hibernate. Surely that's part. You know, you're big on cycles. You know about the natural cycles at play. Surely that's something that we're meant to be adhering to or honouring the natural cycles of the seasons in our part of the world.
I've talked about this so much. Like, I celebrate New Year personally with the spring equinox in March. And I've talked a lot about how we are now in deep hibernation, yet we try and fight and push against that to do the most out there time of the year. And I honestly feel that is where so much exhaustion, anxiety, kind of mental health things come around this time of year, because we're pushing against everything that's natural to us, everything that's natural to us. And so it's so powerful when you do get to a place, and this comes from everything we've talked about so far today, will help people to get to know themselves. So rather than feeling like I should go to the 74 Christmas parties, I'm an awful person if I don't, I'm boring. You mentioned about not living, but to me, living, I love nothing more than sitting in on my own with my Christmas tree with all the lights on at night. That, to me, that's living. That's joy of Christmas. But again, it's taken me a long time to get there, of not feeling like I'm like the boring odd one out. So if you want to party, brilliant, like you do you. But I think at this time of year, it's so important for us to first of all do us, to communicate that. Because I think that's where he felt, as you said, if we're making up the excuses of why we don't want to go, people know when there's an undertone of not being honest.
Yeah.
No. Whereas I think when we can just say,
I don't fancy it.
I love you, but
Yeah.
I want to sit at home with my Christmas tree.
It's maybe a good thing if you've never considered what side of the coin you lie on. You know, so, I've met people like I was interviewing Jedediah Jenkins, the writer, and he said he's a extrovert. Like, he needs to be around tons of people. He loves being out. He feeds off the energy. It creates more energy for him. And I find that so hard to understand, because I've never experienced that in my life ever. I like being around people, more so one-on-one, because I like having really juicy conversations. But if I'm in a big group, you know, when I was younger, I think I kind of drank, not always excessively, but I drank to kind of feel some sort of contentment within that environment, because it's such a bombardment of energy for me. And people, I think, have a cliched view of what extrovert introvert means. An introvert is someone who's shy and quiet and meek and doesn't want to do anything. An extrovert is loud and brash, and it's so not the case. You can get the calmest, most quiet, considered, happy and silent extroverts who just love being around people, and you can get relatively loud, probably like me, introverts who love to communicate and talk but need to have some sort of retreat at the end of the day or week, whatever it is, to recalibrate. And it's just interesting, I guess, to notice that of yourself, so then you can make better decisions, so you don't get overwhelmed and feel awful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So important. It's so important. So what else would you advise this time of year? We're feeling perhaps overwhelmed, maybe we're feeling a bit down, maybe we should even, well, we should definitely bring loneliness into the equation, because there are, unfortunately, over the last 2 years especially, we have had an epidemic of loneliness. So many people out there are feeling more shut off than ever. They may have been through some seriously tough situations. People that I've been speaking to over the last 2 years through my work, who have completely lost their industry or lost their private business, or if they're self-employed, have had a really tough time depending on the line of work. Obviously, people that have just felt very alone because they haven't had much contact with other humans. What else can we do for ourselves to help ourselves, I guess, feel connection?
Exactly. I think one of the first things is, as you've spoken about, that honest awareness in yourself, because we can't allow people to help us unless we know what we need that help with, unless we know what we need that support with. And I know I've been very, very guilty over the years of being that person who's always okay, to the point where everyone thought I was always okay in the moments when I really wasn't, but no one knew I wasn't, because I didn't really know that I wasn't. And so I think it really helps first and foremost to know that and own it, and then to speak about it with people and to let people know if that is how you're feeling. And because again, I feel like people can get so caught up in their own thing at this time of year that they don't necessarily realize you perhaps need that little bit of time with them, or you need support in this way, or a little phone call here and there wouldn't go amiss. And so I feel like communication is really big around this time of year. I think as well, take off any big expectations, because when we boil down to it, it's one day. We have a month of build up, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but it is just one day. So I think, again, if we can take off the expectation and the pressure, as we've spoken about a lot so far, of it having to be anything other than what it is. um Trying to find, then, first of all, a lot of self-care, so really feeling into what is it that I need right now. And things like, if we're going to talk about those moments of overwhelm, where you're in those moments when you feel really snowed under, first of all, coming into the body is really important. So we live so in our mind, and our mind's job is to try to problem solve and run here and there and find a million different ways around things. If we can drop out of the mind into the body, and even in those moments of loneliness, when we can learn to be with ourselves. And when I traveled, one of the first times ever in India, like many years ago, I used to put my own cheek against my own shoulder. So I had skin on skin. And I'd say to myself, like, it's okay, you're here, I've got you, you're going to be okay. So I think, again, we often look to outside the outside world and outside people to give us what we need, when 9 times out of 10 we do have everything. I'm not saying we don't need other human contact, but we can learn to self-soothe, we can learn to self-care, we can learn to be there and hold ourselves. So in those moments of feeling loneliness, first of all, being there for yourself, holding your own hand, saying to yourself, it's okay, I've got you, I'm here for you, what is it that you need right now? In the same way I would do with you if you were struggling, like, what can I do for you right now? What would
We're
help?
awful at doing that to ourselves, aren't we? We're much
Yes.
more likely to reach out to someone we see struggling and say, I want to help. What can I do for
Yes.
you? And we're terrible at just giving ourselves even the time to work out, what do I need? I
Yes.
often will find myself deep down, without realizing it, needing rest, but doing the absolute opposite, thinking, no, if I just do a few more things off my list, then I'll feel better. And that brings me on to asking you, I'd love to unpick a little more the notion of self-care, because again, it's something that gets bounded around a lot, and we hear it used in all manner of ways, and sometimes it might be, it's been commodified, whatever, commercialized, but the true meaning of self-care can quite literally be, I'm imagining, anything that's not destructive to you as a person. Is there a better way of defining it, or maybe finding out what's right for you when it comes to self-care?
I think it's exactly about finding out what's right for you, because we all need care in different ways. We all need, depending on whether, if we go back to our earlier example, if you're an introvert, an extrovert, an ambivert, somewhere in between, we're all going to need then to take care of our energy in different ways. We're all going to need to take care of our emotions in different ways. And the more you get to know yourself, the easier and easier that gets. So I'm very like you. We're so similar. I need rest. So I know when I get overly emotional, the first thing I'm going to check in with is, have I had enough sleep? Have I been to bed early enough? Because if I haven't, I cannot emotionally regulate when I'm tired. I
Yeah.
can't. So my thing then would be, and it's almost, again, the terms get talked about a lot, but it's reparenting yourself. Because when you've got no one to tell you to go to bed at 10 p.m, it feels sometimes a bit rebellious to still be up at like 11:30. And
Yeah.
I have to then parent myself and say to myself, like, come on now, Kirst, come on, it's time to get into bed, get a hot water bottle, like snuggle in, read a bit of your book. I have to kind of almost care for myself, and that to me is the ultimate act of self-care. Yes, there's bubble baths and there's massages and all the things I love doing, but ultimately knowing and giving myself what I need. It might be a good cry.
Yeah.
Yesterday, don't know why, I sobbed like something terrible had happened. I just needed it in that moment. I needed to not keep telling myself, well, there's nothing wrong with you, things are going well, why do you feel like you're upset, why do you feel like you're going to cry? I did it all morning until the point where I was like, do you know what, off you go, off you
Yeah,
go.
I can cry.
I felt so good for it after I'd done it, because I was like, that's just what and I didn't need to add a story to it. I didn't need a reason behind it. I just, in that moment, that's self-care.
Yeah, well, there's a physical release element to that, like laughing, or like boxing, or whatever it is that's got some sort of physical release to it. You just have to, I guess, trial and error, find out what yours is, and there might be more than one way. I certainly, laughter, I definitely find, can switch the energy for me entirely. If I watch like a stupid video on YouTube that's funny or whatever, it makes me feel a billion times better, and like, I'm all of a sudden, my day's been switched up. Like, I think finding a really physical release is such a good way, because often I think we get so cognitive about things like, what is the best route out of this problem? Should I do this? Here's the pro list, the cons list, blah blah. But sometimes you just need to, physically feel a bit better and switch the energy up rather than working out like the cognitive route of things, because that is endless as well. What I think would be really wonderful now, and we talked about this before we started doing this session today, is for us to do a meditation that is really tailored towards people that are feeling snowed under at the moment. I'm there. Hello. People that just need to get grounded, feel more centered, feel okay, and know that we've all got the tools within to get ourselves through tricky things or stressful things. And you are my absolute go-to for this. So I would love to hand it over to you for us all to join and do that together.
Amazing. Okay, so take a moment, get yourself comfortable, sit with us. You can sit with your back against something on the floor, lie down wherever you just feel the most comfortable to be in this moment. And then close down your eyes really gently. And take a moment to just notice in this moment. So chances are now your mind is involved. Your mind is wondering what's about to happen. Have you got the time for this? Should I open my eyes? And so just notice and breathe. And as we take these next few long, slow, deep breaths, just a little check in once more with where you are right now. What's going on for you right now? How you're feeling right now. And then allow your body to feel contact with whatever your body is making contact with. So that might be whatever you're sitting on, whatever you're leaning against. Just feel parts of your body in contact with something. And from this, feel a sense of being held and supported, and just say to yourself, let yourself know in this moment, I am safe. In this moment, I am safe. In this moment, I am held. Now, over these next few breaths, I'd love us to invite back all the parts of ourselves that get so easily scattered at this time of year. So every time you inhale, I want you to feel as though you are inhaling and gathering back parts of you. And as you exhale, just feel yourself sink a little deeper into yourself. Just feel the whole of you release, relax. And so with every inhale, we're gathering back those parts of ourselves that are running around somewhere doing something. Gathering back the parts of ourselves we've lost somewhere along the way. Gathering back the parts of ourselves that are spiraling out there somewhere. Every single inhale, just gently gather back a part of yourself. And as you exhale, feeling more present, more whole, more complete. So you are arriving now here in this moment, and in this moment, all is well. In this moment, all is well. I want you to begin to imagine for me that all around you right now is this little bubble of protection. So you might imagine it as your aura, or just a beautiful little bubble that is now surrounding you. Just noticing if this bubble does have a color to it, how big it is, how close to it is. Just noticing this beautiful little bubble of protection around you. And now over these next few breaths, we're going to use our breath to give ourselves a little bit more space. So now as you inhale and you feel your inhale expand, I want you to imagine with each inhale, you gently send away from you anything you don't need in this moment. And as you exhale, come back to yourself, just sink a little deeper into yourself. And so now with each inhale, we're going to start to send anything we don't need outside this bubble of protection. So with every deep breath in, as you feel that little expansion, it's as though you're gently expanding, gently sending away anything you don't need in this moment. So that might be expectation, feelings of overwhelm, worries. Every inhale, anything you no longer need, feel it gently move away outside the periphery of this little bubble of protection. And every time you exhale, just really sinking, settling into yourself. And noticing now how there is just more and more space around you as you continue to breathe away anything you don't need, anything that's laid heavy on top of you, anything that's been just here in your face, anything that's felt like it's pressured around you. And this might be people, situations, relationships, work, whatever it is. Now, you might want to make your little bubble of protection a little bit bigger, a little bit wider. So, over the next few breaths, you might allow this bubble of protection around you to just move gently a bit further away from you, as though everything else moves that bit further away from you. And all that's left right now is you, in this beautiful, calm, peaceful space. Just feeling yourself now in this beautiful bubble of protection, knowing that nothing can come back into this bubble unless you allow it to. Nothing can come back into this bubble now unless you allow it to. So you might take the next few moments to make this little bubble around you a little bit stronger. So this is a beautiful boundary around you now, a boundary around your time, your energy. Feeling yourself safe now in this space. Nothing can come back into this space unless you allow it to. In this space now, just feeling yourself, feeling a presence within yourself, feeling that right now you are supporting and caring for yourself. You can trust yourself. You are here for you right now. Feel that. And feel the calm and the peace that comes with knowing that you can trust yourself to take care of yourself. And I want us just to take these final few moments now to just fill this little bubble around you with anything that you might need. If you feel like you need a little bit of extra love right now, energy right now, support right now, whatever that might be, just feel as though you open yourself now to allowing whatever it is that you need to move into your life. And just taking a final moment or so now to feel yourself surrounded in this beautiful bubble of protection, knowing that you can return back into this bubble now at any time that you need it. And that this little bubble of protection that we've created just now is going to remain around you for the rest of the day ahead. Nothing can come back into this bubble unless you allow it. You are safe and protected, loved and held. Feel that deep within you. Know that. Allowing your awareness now to move very, very gently to your heart. Just feeling the love that lives in your heart, especially around this time of year. Just feeling the love within your heart. Feeling still held within your bubble of protection. Feel a gentle smile in your heart. And allow this smile to move to your face. Knowing that you are safe within your little bubble, gently, gently flutter your eyes back open whenever you are ready. Joining us back in this space. And I hope you feel surrounded,
My
protected.
adrenaline's dropped by at least 50%, which was very needed. And it's always lovely doing that with you and sharing that space with you. And yeah, I don't allow myself enough time to do that and time out like that without there being some sort of goal. So I certainly need to come back and do that again more often. But that was so wonderful. I can't thank you enough. I
Oh,
really
thank you.
oh well, as you know, I love chatting to you and discussing life with you and solutions and whatnot. And I really hope that whoever's watching this, you know, wherever you're at in your head, wherever you're at with this time of year, I really hope that this has been of some help. Maybe it's prompted you to try a bit of journaling. Maybe you'll want to come back and do this meditation again. Maybe you'll simply want to just take a bit of time to check in with yourself every day. But whatever you're doing, we both wish you well at this time of year. And thank you so much for watching. And thank you, Kirsty.
Thank you so much for having me.